As told in our last video, I will yet show you how to backup and restore our Proxmox server. So stay online, it begins in a few minutes. Did you already heard about the 3 remarks that you never want to hear from your system administrator or consulting? The first one is, oh, I never saw that before. The second one is, oh, it's funny. And the third one is, you have a backup, do you? Of course, we must make sure that our new installed Proxmox server is being backed up. We want to have our data, and Proxmox is really stable, but hardware, filer, or a disk, or whatever, you can lose your server. Please, when you are backing up your server, don't stop the backup after a few months because nothing had happened. Because in this case, Murphy's Law will strike. You know this law, you probably heard about it. It's telling there is no reason why the worst should not happen. That means we need an external disk, USB disk, a NAS system, an old server with some disk within, whatever you want, but it must be outside your Proxmox server. There is around about 4 types of backup. The first one is the backup of the container and virtual machine. This is done by Proxmox. The second one is the Proxmox configuration itself. The third one is the backup of the data on your ZFS pool, ZFS pool. And fourth, ZFS Snapshot. There is a small program that makes auto snapshot every 15 minutes. And after an hour, the rotation is down and one snapshot for 1 hour is being created. And so far, you can configure that like you want and give you the possibility to restore one file, one small pieces of your data without having to restore all the server. You can mount the snapshot somewhere, copy the data back to your original file. So we will now start and we change to our terminal session. So let's go. If you want to use an NFS share like I do, you must first set it up as share in your NAS or in the NAS or wherever you want to set that up. As any different NAS has its own way to configure that. I will not go further there. You will have to search for the implementation of a NAS share in your environment. But once this is defined, we can mount this share in our Proxmox server. And as it's defined as NFS, we can do it in the following way. So we just put or add a line in the etc fs tab. Echo, backup is the name of my server. Data backup is the share. I want to mount it on backup. It's NFS, and it should be read-write. Then 2 times bigger. This is important because if you only put one bigger sign, you will overwrite the file, and you don't want to do that. So you can return. As you see, we have it here. Now, what we still have to do is create the directory where it should be mounted. This is this one here. Okay, it's already exists. And then mount -A. That means everything that is in the etc FS tab should be mounted. If I check it, you can see here that my share is mounted on backup. Now, one step I still want to do is creating any subdirectory that I want to have below backup. So in this case, mkdir -p is the command for everything will be created, even PV test if it doesn't exist. So backup is my mount point, the server, in this case PV test, and then I want 3 different subdirectory: config, dump, and BorgBackup. So and we have it here. BorgBackup, config, and dump. As you see, we still have some backups. Of course, in these small commands, you must use your NAS name and directory. But once done, the share is now configured. If you want to use a USB disk, forget the last steps. Just connect your disk to the server and check if the system mounted it automatically. In the terminal session, we should give just the message, and you get at the end directly, you could see here USB storage has been detected, and it's mounted as disk SDK, where SDK2 our USB disk. So now what we have to do is again mkdir USB disk, then mount dev SDK2 on on USB disk. And now just df -h grep USB. And we have it here. The disk is mounted. You can use it as backup storage. This will be our next step. So now that we have created our backup directory, we have to set it up as a storage on our Proxmox server. For that, we change now to the front-end, web front-end. We go to Data Center, Storage, Add, Directory, ID. I want to name it Backup. My directory is Backup. We took PV test. We want to create a VZ dump backup file and not an image, a disk image. This is enabled, and we can add the node where this storage will be mounted. Just click on Add, Backup has been created. If I change to the directory exec, we can see the backups that have already been created on this directory. So now we go to Data Center again and change to Backup. We go to Add, I recommend to set up two different kind of backup. You will probably have on your Proxmox a lot of VM or container that are just for testing purpose or laboratory. You need them from time to time, not all the time, and it doesn't make sense to back them up every day, as those virtual machine or container will not be changed rarely often. So I set up always once a week a backup of all my VM or container, and the other days only the most important one. That means the server I really need every day. So we will set it up, create a backup job node, should run on my PVE. This is our only server, Proxmox server that we have. The storage should be backup. The schedule, Sundays, 1:00 a.m. And I want to have all the VM backed up. You can let your email address, but I recommend to set it up on failure only. That means you will receive an email if the backup failed, has failed, or you have any trouble there. ZSTD is the best way. It's the faster and very good compression. Mode, I recommend Snapshot, as for the two other ones, suspend and stop, your virtual machine will be stopped during the backup. For a bigger environment, this could take time until your server is restarted then. With Snapshot, you don't have to stop the virtual machine. You can work on it, but you cannot access it from the Proxmox frontend during the backup. So now I go on create. One step that I forgot in the storage is the backup retention. If you let it as is during the creation, it will keep any backup. I would set it up to something like I want to keep 5 daily backup and 1 weekly. So this is the setup on a directory level. You can do the same on the backup level. So if it doesn't change anything, it take the retention defined on the storage. If you want to change it and say, okay, I only want to have 3 and once a week. Okay. And the next one, we want to have a daily backup. Monday to Friday, I just want to have Monday to Saturday, and I want to have it at 1 o'clock. And I only need my database server, for example. File only, snapshot, create. The same, go back here, edit, retention. So now we go on this one and say run now. You see the container is being a snapshot and is not accessible from the Proxmox, but I could log in on the server and work on it. So we can let it run. Once finished, we will have a backup of our container. So our next step now will be to backup the Proxmox configuration. We need that in order, if we have to recreate our Proxmox server, we need the configuration in order to know how was it set up, which disk we had, which virtual machine, which container was installed, how was the environment set up. And if you don't have that, you can begin from scratch again, and it will complicate your life. So once again, we don't have to create anything, as some people already wrote a backup program. Many thanks there to the author, there Danilo and his friends. You can download the script and GitHub. You can find the address on my homepage on the description. The reference is below the video. So I'll switch to GitHub, and we have our program here. You can just copy the program. You change to the bash, go to bin, and edit a PVE config backup.sh or like you want to name it. And with Escape E, you can change into the editor mode. And paste the line you just copied on the GitHub. You can do it with under Windows with Control V, under Linux with Control Shift V. Now I just have a few words to add about the configuration directory. It's under etc PVE. This one is a virtual file system. That means in reality it's located in a SQLite 3 database located under var lib pv cluster config db. The best way to backup this configuration is to use the internal SQLite 3 backup tool. This means you can backup the config without stopping your Proxmox server. For that, we have to adapt the script. So we go back to the script and change into the numeration with set NU, and we scroll down to line 69 and add this file. This is file 9, doesn't exist until now, and is named Proxmox config db.db. The next step is to go further down line 135, and there we add the backup command on the database, SQLite 3 var lib pv cluster config db. Then backup and the file name we have set up on the line 69. The next step is on line 147 to add the db at the end of the line. Once this is done, double point WQ for write and exit. What we have to do is change mode 750. We just make this program executable, and we have to add one line on the cron tab with cron tab -E, and we can add this line here. That means at 23 hours 45 minutes, any month, any day, any date, run this program, write the log into this file, and if any error happened, write it in the same log file. So the first time you call cron tab, you will be prompted for an editor. You can use whatever you want. Most of the time you have Nano or VI. I used VI here, but you can take whatever you want. So now there is a last step. We can control our cron tab with -L for list. I just copy this line, send it in the background, oh, and then tile our backup file, and it's already finished. You have the details of the backup. So our configuration is now backed up. In the backup, you can see that we have different kind of file. We have cron tab, we have etc, we have local bin, we have the PV configuration, we have backup of root, we have a list of the packages installed on the server, and we have a report where any hardware or configuration is written in this file, so that you can restore your server from scratch if needed. So until now, we have only secured our Proxmox environment. The data stored on the CFS pool that we use as share, or will use as share, is still not backed up. That means film, photo, archive, or any kind of personal data that you are storing on the CFS pool. Those must be backed up separately. But this is where we will encounter our first issue. Those data take a lot of capacity on the disk, or at least for me. I have the following VDEV defined. If I go back to my own server and just CFS list, you can see we have my CFS pool. We have backup, a builder for photography. DVR is my video recorder. Music. Then I have a subdirectory for series. I have a time machine to back up my MacBook. Videos, private videos, and I have data VM, of course, set up for Proxmox. So I have another CFS pool, is a tier 1, located on SSD disk for some of the virtual machine disk. So all those directory are configured as NFS and or Samba share. I will explain in the next video why I choose this solution against a full NAS like FreeNAS, for example. All those directory for me are using around about 6.5 terabyte. So if you want to back them up, you need at least the same capacity in your backup storage. I'm using BorgBackup. This program is compressing and deduplicating the data. And this spares a lot of capacity. For example, the backup result for my environment is here. We have the last backup. The archive was 3.6 terabyte. The compressed size 3.4 terabyte. And the duplicated size 10.5 gigabyte. As you see, original size, this was the change in the backup. The compressed size is not that much, but this is only due to the fact that all the data located in my ZFS pool are mostly video, music, photography, and all those files have already a very stark compression level. So it's JPEG or MP4 or whatever video file you have. This is why we don't have such a difference between the original and the compressed file. But look at the deduplicated size. We go from 3.6 terabyte to 10 gigabyte. And all the archive together, that means all the backup I keep are 22 terabyte, compressed 21, the same difference, not that much, and deduplicate size 3.68 terabyte. So with this program, we can spare a lot of capacity on our backup disk. So the first step will be to install BorgBackup. So we go back to our Proxmox server. And just give apt install Python 3 pip and BorgBackup. Okay, for me, nothing happened because it's already installed. So the next step is to upgrade the pip installation we have just done. This is with Python 3 -m pip install pip upgrade. Oh, sorry. Double dash. So now. So as you see, we installed the last version. The next step will be to initialize the backup directory. As you can remember, in a former step, we set up 3 different directories under our backup. So we have here our BorgBackup. Okay. So we want to initialize this Borg init -e repo key -black2. This is the encryption. And then our destination. Backup PV test BorgBackup. It's claiming for password. You can say if you want to see your passphrase to check if you don't have any mistype or any error in your password. And as you see here, your password is here. And the initialization has set up a key located under backup PV test BorgBackup. And you need at least both the key and the password in order to have access to your data. Of course, you can set up your environment without encryption or password. In this case, you just have to issue the Borg init -e known, and then you will not be prompted for a password or the key will not be created. And your backup file will not be encrypted too. If you are using an USB disk that can disappear or be taken by someone, I recommend to set up encryption and a password in order to protect your data. The same, of course, if you are using a storage in internet, whatever you want to use. On my homepage, you will have a list of the different encryption mode and authentication mode that you can set up. And the next point that we need is to set up our backup program. You will find the listing in my homepage. See the link below the video. At least what you have to fill in is your password. Then you need, of course, the backup disk mount is the location of your backup. And you have to fill in the directory you want to backup on your server. So if I go back and give a CFS list, so we have video and Bilder, also okay, photography if you want. It's German word for that. Then we will have to add here data builder. So now I recommend to set up a root too. On this way you will be sure that you have a backup of your root directory that contain all the script, anything that you need to restore your server if you need that. So once this is done, the same way, cron tab -e, and you have to add the one-liner here, 0 hour, 15 minutes, any day, any weeks, any day of the month. You run the backup. The logs are being written in this file, and any error will be added to this file too. Just go out. Once you have done that, you can use this line and start a first backup. With the same command, you can check your log file. Of course, in all the script, you have to adapt the directory for your environment. So we still have one point that we can do. One of the advantages of ZFS is its snapshot possibility. Snapshot in ZFS takes almost no space on disk. That means you can follow the changes on your important VDEV And in case of an error or file erase or overwritten, you are able to restore it from a snapshot. So we don't have to do it manually. Again, some people have done an amazing job and created already such a program. We just have to download it and install a few add-ons on the operating system. So we go back to our terminal and as root apt install apt install -y gcc and make. Okay, for me it's already installed. So the next step will be to download the program from the GitHub. So we just type wget, then the link. So the link of our file, the link is on the description on my homepage. And just return. So we check it. We have our tar file here and just give tar -x for extraction, v for visual, you want to see what is being done, z because it's a compressed tar file, f for file name, and the file you just downloaded. Now you change into the new created directory and just give make install. And the program is installed and the configuration is already running. So without any other configuration, the program is doing snapshot of every pull and virtual device automatically. It creates a snapshot every 15 minutes. It's named a frequent snapshot, and then it's going further. Now, after 4 frequents, you have 1 hourly. After 24 hourly, you have a daily. After 8 daily, you will have a weekly snapshot. After 31 daily, you will have a monthly snapshot, and until you have 12 monthly snapshot. So I would recommend to deactivate the snapshot completely for the CFS pool itself and configure any VDEF as requested. You have to decide if and how many snapshots you need for one VDEF. I would avoid auto snapshot on the data VM virtual device, as a snapshot for this virtual device are being done on the web frontend of Proxmox. So we have already created our ZFS pool and some VDEF. So what I want to do now is to deactivate the auto snapshot on the Z pool itself, on data. I don't want to make a snapshot on this on the root file system. Because if I check on the data, we don't have any file there, and we will never have it, and I don't recommend it. Create a VDAV, but don't store data directly into your Z pool. And now what we have to do is to set up for first I will take the same command but apply it to VM. No snapshot on data VM. If I want to check it, CFS get all, no, sorry, data, grep com.send. On data it's false. We check the same for VM. It's false too. And now we want to set it up for data video, for example. And this time I set it up as true. That means the auto snapshot will be activated on data video. Now I will say that I want to keep my hourly snapshot. I want to have the frequent, that means every 15 minutes. I want to keep the daily backup, daily snapshot, sorry. I want to keep my weekly backup, but no more than 8 weekly backup. And I say that I don't want to have a monthly backup. So no matter if it makes sense or not, you have to decide how many snapshots do you want, how old your snapshot should be, and if it makes sense or not, it's up to you. For my environment, I set up frequently, also frequent. I had daily, weekly, but I keep only 2 weeks. And I don't have any monthly or backup. So up to you to choose how many you want to keep and what you want to keep. So after some time, you can check it, -t snapshot, and you have the list of your snapshot on data, video, and even builder is configured here. We are finished so far. If you want to restore from a snapshot, you just have to mount this snapshot on a directory and access it, and you can restore the file that you need. So until now, we have set up the backup of our server, of the virtual machine, of our data. We must now check if this backup can be used for restore, of course, because the most important part of a backup is the possibility to restore it. Now we are starting to restore from a complete data loss. As we saw, we have 4 different backups. First, our VM and container backup, then the configurations backup, the BorgBackup of our CFS pool, and the CFS Snapshot. The recovery will depend on the type of issue that we have. Complete data and or server loss, fire, coffee pot or mug, football, don't laugh, it happened to me, storm with lightning strike, etc. Here we will need backup 2, 1, and 3. A virtual machine crash or don't start anymore after an unlucky update. In this case, you need only a backup number 1. This is the VM or container backup. File erased or destroyed. Backup 1 or 4 or a mixture of backup 1 and 4. First step is to check if the hardware is still working normally. If necessary, any destroyed part must be replaced, and the server must be rebuilt from scratch. So once Proxmox has been reinstalled or reconfigured, we will have some job to do. So first, you can check if the CFS pool are again online. For that, go to the pool status. We can see here no pool available. So in this case, it means no more that the operating system did not recognize any CFS pool that it can mount. This is due to the fact that you have done new installation and the UID of your hardware of your server has changed and the CFS pool was configured for the old one. So we can try to give the pool import. And there we can see we have our pool data. But the status is the pool was last accessed by another system, our old Proxmox server. So in this case, we have to force the pool to import the data. Simple import -f data. And again, the pool status. Data is online, no disk error, no data error, and everything is mounted where it should be. In this case, everything is good, and we just have to restore the configuration. If only one disk is missing after the import, you will get something like state degraded, and then one of the disks is unavailable. In this case, you just have to replace the faulted disk and repair the CFS pool with zpool replace -f data, then the UID of the disk and the new disk that should be placed in the zpool. If you've lost more than one disk, then you will have to recreate the Z-pull completely. As in our case, we have read Z1, and we have only the possibility to lose one disk, no more. So, if the Z-pull was destroyed, it must be restored. You will have to recreate the Z-pull as it was on the original server. You can see on Proxmox installation and CFS configuration. So, and you can have, we will mkdir -p root restore. So, because our backup is no more there, so we have to recreate, to remount our NFS share. For that, just issue the command that we have on the NFS configuration description, and that is echo this line added to etc fs tab. Then we have to create our backup directory. Mount any disk defined in the etc fs tab. So, okay, probably the timeout strike there, and this is why we got this error. If I try it, we can see backup is mounted, and we can just with cp backup pv test config we should choose the last one, 20th 1012 1038 1039. To root restore. Now we can change to our new directory and the same tar -x v z f and our file. So the first thing you can check if the information about the Z-pull has been lost, this is to check this file, the text file. With style -f, you can say the last one on the line. Oh, sorry. Of course, the files that have been restored are locally on the var, not on the var. So we have it there. And we have our CFS list, any VDEV that has been declared, the zpool, how it was configured, and many other information for disk, UID, etc. So based on the information here, you can rebuild your environment. As soon as the pool has been recreated, we can change to our Chrome environment, to our web browser, and we can see here that we have nothing. Just a local VM, no ISO file, no ISO image, no set template. All this must be uploaded again. Then what we have to do is again mount our backup. Sorry, here, the PVE. CFS, okay, data is there. Reload. Disk are listed. And if we go to storage, sorry, add CFS, and we want to add the data VM. Data VM enabled. There, add. So, and again, we have our disk. So now that we have configured that, we must reconfigure the backup. So add storage, directory, ID, backup, directory is backup PV test and VZ dump and not disk image node enabled add. Take some time and it's now online. If we look at the backup, we have again our server backup present. The next step will be, if we have lost our CFS zpool, will be to restore the virtual device in the CFS pool. So now we change again to our terminal and we give, we will have to install apt install minus yes, Python 3, pip, and BorgBackup. So we had to refresh the APT. The same way we have to install Make and JCC. Okay. So now what we can do is go back to restore that we created before. And now we can check Borg list backup PV test BorgBackup. So we need our passphrase. Let me pick it up. So here is it. And we have one backup here. So now what we want to do is to mount this backup in order to restore the content. With the command borg mount first of all mkdir restore and then borg mount our repository and the backup name on restore. Again, my passphrase. So, as you see, under restore we have a root and data. Now, what I want to do is async -a restore root to root and the same for data. videos to data, videos. And the same for Bilder, also photography. And finished. Of course, we only have a few files in our virtual device. So if you have to restore your data, depending on how many files you have within, it can take days. For example, the first backup I made on my system took almost 2 days to run for the first time. So that means the restore will take so many time too. For an environment with, like me, more than 6 terabytes, it will take around about 1.5 up to 2 days to restore the data. So we have our file restored. Now you have to repeat that, of course, for each subdirectory and restore data to your diverse virtual device. So the next step will be to restore the configuration. For that, we will change into our restored bin directory here. And what we will do is copy backup pv test config then 1039 to root bin. So our file is here. Now what we have to do is to write our pv config restore file program. The listing is located on my homepage. The link is below the video. And with escape I change into editor modus and paste the file described in my documentation. So once finished, you will still have to make this file executable. That means chmod 750 and file name. And then dot restore sh, sorry, and our tar file. And just type return. So anything has been replaced. The Proxmox has been stopped, of course, before the restore. Database has been restored, And what we have to do now is just reboot the server. Okay, we have restored the root environment, so we have to erase the old key. Confirm, and we are here. If I change now to the web frontend, and refresh, we have our PVE, we have our two files as we restored the zpool at the beginning. It was again there. So the web has already been started and MySQL was stopped and it's still stopped. But everything is there again. In case that your zpool, the VM, has been erased and recreated from scratch, of course, the web and MySQL will be there, but it cannot be started because there is no disk information anymore. You only have the configuration. In this case, what we have to do is erase both machines. You go to More, Remove, 101, Purge, Destroy, Remove. The same for web. And now what we have to do is to restore our container from the backup. So we go to our backup storage, click here on backup, and we just have to choose the last one. $100. We go to restore. So start after restore, for example. This will be our web, I think. And just restore. So you can close this file. This is still running. You have it in the log below here. And we can do the same with our second server and say restore 101 from backup configuration, restore. The same, we can close it. As we see, the first restore is now finished. Our server is up and running again. So both servers are back there. What we still have to do is reconfigure. Okay, it kept the weekly backup. Then in this case we only have to restart the Monday, Friday, Monday, Saturday, 1 o'clock. And create. So what I don't know is why he lose the server name. In this case, what we have to do, oh no, okay, it must be just actualized. So okay, it was not finished. Now everything is up and running again, and it's all folk. But don't be mistaken, this procedure is very time consuming if the CFS pool has to be restored. So this can take a few days. But it's not complicated. Once you have set up the backup, you can restore your environment like you want. So there is still another solution to set up a second Proxmox server. In this case, you have to configure the storage as I available with CFS. In this case, you are able to move your VM and container from one Proxmox server to the other. And the crash of one Proxmox server would not impact your work that much. That means that the server where the VM are running, if this server crash down, the VM will crash down too. But you can log in to the second server and start the VM on the second server. Your VM are again online, and all you have to do is restart the crashed server or restore the crashed server. That means build a new server if anything is doesn't work again. Reinstall Proxmox and reinsert this server into the Proxmox cluster under the data center. In this case, automatically the configuration will be spread to the new server, and you can reuse it without doing anything else. But this is so a setup is totally another approach of Proxmox, and it's not part of our backup team here. It could be maybe a solution for a future video or an article. So I hope you had fun, that it was clear how to build your backup, how to restore a crashed server, and until the next time, bye. So I hope you enjoyed this video. You were able to set up the backup of your server and to test it, because any backup should be tested at least one time. And in the next video, we will see how to configure the file sharing on our system. Work files, environment, etc., whatever you want. I will show you how to set it up without using a FreeNAS or a NAS solution. And until then, have fun and bye-bye.